Hey guys, I'm here today to do my September wrap-up. I'm really excited to tell you guys about the books I read this month because I read a lot of good ones and not too many I didn't like. So without further ado, let's just get into my wrap-up. So first I read Bright Young Things by Anna Goberson, and my friend Sarah actually let me borrow this like 4 months ago, I believe, and I just never picked it up, and I finally read it this month and I actually really enjoyed it. This is the author who did the Lux series, and not the like Alien Lux series, but the one that was about girls in like the 1910s and like pretty dresses and all that, and 1900s or so. And this one is about a girl and her friend in the 1920s and how they move from, I think it was like Ohio or something, to New York to become famous. It's kind of cheesy, you know, at times, and like very young, but I still really liked it. I really liked the story. I'm really sucked into like historical points of time stories, even though this isn't like accurate or anything, I don't think, but it was still like 1920s and how like they dress and how they speak and the things that are happening. I was really into it, so I gave it 4 stars. I mean, it's probably like a 3-star book if you think about it, but I gave it 4 because I actually enjoyed it and was into it. I read Tiny Pretty Things and Shiny Broken Pieces. These are both by Sana Cheraporta and Donielle Clayton, and I don't think I said them right, so I'll just put the names right there for you. But these were both pretty good. I really liked this first one. So it's about a school for ballerinas, and it goes through 3 main characters all wanting to be like, you know, really famous in the school, really good dancers. They want the lead parts, and it's just about like the drama and how people sabotage each other for like the part. And so I really liked this first one. Then in the sequel it was just the same thing over again, so I didn't think it needed to be 2 books. It could have just been like 1 really long book. So I really liked the first one, but I don't think I would reread the second one because I don't know, it's just the same drama. It's like the next year at school, the same drama. And so yeah, I would recommend the first one, but not really the second one unless you care. But like, there's not really any new drama. I just felt like it was the same story all over again, so it was kind of pointless, but I liked the first one. Then I read P.S. I Like You by Casey West. I got this in my August Owl Crate box, I believe, and it was okay. It was just a typical like boy-girl love story. It's about a girl who starts writing like lyrics on her desk, and then the next day there's a like continued lyric, and so she kind of becomes pen pals with this person by just like writing on the desk, and then they start writing letters to each other and like slipping them under the desk, so they like talk about all of their lives and all these secrets that they haven't told anyone. 3 boys you think could be the one who wrote the note. Just like any other romance story. I literally just read a book like that like a month ago, and that was the same type of thing. Like there's emails, and she thought it was like 3 different guys who could have been sending her the emails. So this is the same thing with like handwritten notes. A lot of it was just kind of pointless. Like she finds out who it is halfway through, and then she's just like, oh, I shouldn't like him, or I guess I should, or I guess I shouldn't, you know? And so it's just like immature and dumb, and her friends not a good friend. And I feel like, I mean, like, she wasn't the perfect protagonist, but she seemed to try to do a lot of things for her friend and seemed to try to be a good person, and her friend was always just like mad at her, and then they would like, you know, be friends again, and then they would get upset with each other, and then they'd be friends again. And I understand they're like 16 and that is like what happens, but I don't like that books never like acknowledge that friendships aren't healthy. They always like, they'll do like a relationship isn't healthy, but they won't say like a friendship isn't healthy. Because there's another Casey West book I read where the friends were horrible. It was a fill-in boyfriend. The friends were horrible, and there was never any like conclusion that the friends should not have been horrible people. It was just kind of like the main protagonist wasn't supposed to be horrible, and like she wasn't. And it was the friends who were mean, but like no one would ever acknowledge that they were, and it was bad. So I gave this like 4 stars. I enjoyed it at the time. It's like, I rate books like, you know, how you enjoy it when you're reading it, but like I don't think I would read it again. And I read The Raven King by Maggie Stiefvater. This is number 4 in the Raven Cycle series, and I borrowed that from the library, so I don't have it to hold up. But it was a very good conclusion to the series. It was not the best one in the series by far. The ending was very rushed. It just literally ended, and I was like, oh, okay. Like, all it was good, and I would recommend it to, you know, finish the series, but like it was the most amazing book in the series, but by far this series is a great series. Then I read Zeros by Scott Westerfeld. Like, this took me so long to read. I started this in like July or something, and I read like 300 pages, and then it took me like forever, you know, I finished it this rest of the month. And this is by Scott Westerfeld, Margot Langan, and Deborah Biconti. And so I'm not sure who wrote which parts, because there's like 5 or 6 characters in this book, and it's kind of told by like their different points of views and such. So I'm not sure which people wrote which parts, if they both picked like 2 characters or something, I'm sure. But anyway, so it's about a group of teens who are like have superpowers, but they're not like amazing superpowers, and they call themselves zeros instead of like heroes. And so the main character-ish, I mean, they're all kind of the main characters, but the most main character, his name is Scam, and his real name is Ethan, and when he speaks, he can either like speak normally, or he can let the voice that always has the right answers speak. So that's like his power, that he like can any situation know what should be said and will just say it. And there's all these other people in the group that have different superpowers. Like one of them can control like technology, one of them can control like how your feelings are and stuff. Ethan gets himself in this like bank robbery, and his voice says all the right things but like doesn't, and kind of gets them all into trouble, and he just gets like into this big chaotic trouble with like mob bosses and like drug money and such. And I mean, it was just very long, and I think it's a series, and I just like, I liked it. I really did enjoy it. It's just so much. I feel like it could have been a lot shorter, and I just don't know if I can invest myself into like reading more of it, because it was so hard for me to get through, even though I did enjoy it when I would pick it up, but I dreaded to read it. Like, I did not want to read it, but when I was reading it, I was enjoying it. So yeah, I gave it 3 stars. It was okay, but probably not one I would ever continue with. I read The Summer of Chasing Mermaids by Sarah Auchler. This is by far the best book Sarah Auchler has ever written. I've read, I believe, all of her books. This one was so good. I loved it. I almost gave it 5 stars. It was almost perfect, except for like, you know, little things. So it's probably like a 4.5 or so. So it's about who goes to Oregon to stay with her cousin, and she is mute. She can't speak at all, but she can, you know, she can hear, and she just can't speak, and so she has to like mouth everything or write things down. And every year in this town there is a pirate brigade where they like race ships, and the main character, boy, and his friend have done it every year, but their parents have like bet against each other this year, and so they can't be teammates, they have to go against each other. So the girl main character and the boy main character, I can't remember anyone's names. Oh, let's look. His name was Christian. It says on the back. What was her name? Elise. Elise and Christian, they decide to work together and do this pirate ship, and also Christian's little brother, Sebastian, that was his name. He really, really, really loves mermaids, so they always pretend to like look for mermaids and go on mermaid adventures and such, and he believes Elise is a mermaid because she can't speak, like the Little Mermaid, you know. And so it's really cute, and it's just like a very good friendship and like love story. She never really got along with her cousin, and then her cousin and her, you know, become friends more and more into the book, and it's just really good. I loved it. And the only part I didn't really like was she used to be like a singer, so there was lots of like song lyric stuff in here, and I just don't care about poetry or like songwriting or such like that when I don't have music to go with it, you know what I mean? So I love music, and I love song lyrics when I know how the song goes, but when it's just like lyrics written in a book, like poetry, I just don't care. So that kind of stuff, I think that's why I bumped it down. There's just a lot of that, but if you like that, then you'll love this book. And yeah, I would highly recommend this one over all her books. This one is the best. Then I read The Blood, which is number 3 in the Morpheus Road series by DJ McCall. I don't have it either because I had to return it to the library. It was just the last book in the series. It was an okay story. It was a good wrap up. I believe there's a character from the Pendragon series that was actually in it, so that was amazing. Like when they introduced him, I was like, oh my god. And my fiance was next to me and he was like, what? And I was like, remember this character from Pendragon? He's like, yeah, of course. And I was like, well, he's in this series. Like, you need to read this book. And, like, it's not like he's a huge character or anything, but he's in the last, like, half of this third book, so I just thought it was really cool that DJ McCall, like, had these two worlds together, and the ending is, like, the same as Pendragon, as the world. How Pendragon ends, this is kind of how this book ends in the same world. So I liked how it went, and I really liked the ending. It was super good. So, yeah, overall, I think it's a really good series. The first book, you don't really need to read the second book though unless you really care about the other points of view of the first book, because the first and second book are literally the same book and like different points of view. So I mean, I feel like you could read either of them. They were both enjoyable. I both liked them, but they were very unnecessary of like, they were the same book. It's just which character did you like more. So I mean, I liked them both because I liked both characters, but also didn't like it. And anyway, the third book though is completely, you know, both characters together in this world and just fighting the bad guys, and it's just really good, and I really enjoyed the conclusion. And I read A Vintage Affair by Isabel Wolf, and this one was also from my friend Sarah, who let me borrow it like in June, and I only have one more book she let me borrow that I need to read, so I'm so happy I've been reading these. But anyway, this one was so good. This was probably the best book I read this month. I'm probably gonna buy this book. I really liked it, and I'm surprised I liked it so much because it's not a young adult book, it's an adult book, but it was just, I think it was really well written. So it's about a girl named Phoebe, and she used to be like, she was like a lawyer or something. She had a very like high class job, very well off for herself, and she just wasn't happy, so she quits that job and opens up her own vintage store. So she has a vintage store where she sells like purses and dresses and shirts and such, and she's just so happy, and she just describes all the clothes and like how characters come in and they all have their own stories of like how dresses make them feel beautiful and such. And so I just really liked it, how people would come in and she would help them pick out an outfit and like what that outfit meant to them. And there's this thing she sold, like she called them cupcake dresses, so it's like those prom dresses that are really like cute and like ballerina-y like, and she would sell them to different people, and how like why they got them was, you know, different versions of why they felt beautiful and such. And so it was just really good. And there's also a mystery of how her friend dies, her best friend in the whole world is dead, and so there's kind of, it's not like a mystery to her, but it's a mystery to the reader of like how she dies. And she also was engaged, and the engagement got broken off, and so it's kind of a mystery to us how that happens. While there's also some other love affairs. There is like a love triangle, but I didn't hate it. Like I actually loved I loved all the characters, so I like didn't know who I wanted her to end up with, you know, so I was very invested. And there's also another storyline with a lady that she's buying vintage clothes from, who was part of World War II, the horrors of World War II, and so all of that is in this like really short book. And so I read this in like 2 hours, and it was just really good. It flew by, and I just would recommend it. I thought it was a very good read. Finally, this month I read 2 books on my Kindle from the library. So the first one was The Haters by Jessie Andrews. And this was the author of Me and Earl and the Dying Girl, which I read like 2 years ago, and I super loved that book. It was so funny. This one was so funny too. I can't tell you how many times I was laughing, like literally laughing out loud, like couldn't breathe. I was laughing so much at this book, and I'm not making that up. Like, I for real, this is the most I've ever laughed at a book like in a row, and I can't even think of what was funny. There's just sections that were hilarious, and I would just keep reading, and I was just kept laughing because the characters were so good. It's the same type of, there's 2 boys and 1 girl, the same as Me and Earl and the Dying Girl, and this one is about they're all at a jazz camp. The 2 boys are best friends from a school, and they don't know how they got into jazz camp because they like BS their way into like getting in. They can play instruments, but they're just not very good at it, but they got accepted. And the girl is like good at playing the guitar, but not really. She like wants to do her own thing. So they're practicing in jazz camp, and she's just playing her own thing and not what like she's supposed to be playing, and she just runs out, and the two boys are just instantly like, let's be friends with her type thing, and they kind of run away from jazz camp and make their own band and just travel around like trying to play music at bars and such, and it's just hilarious. It's so good. Like, you know, it's not very realistic because like when would that ever really happen? But I was okay with it. Like, I knew it was like over the top and kind of crazy, but I still really loved it. I don't think it's one I would purchase. It was a really good read. I laughed so much. I was really into it, and I would recommend it if you needed a good funny book. And finally, I read The Problem with Forever by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This book was okay. I gave it 3 stars. I thought it was going to be a lot better. It is pretty much Hopeless by Colleen Hoover. It's a girl goes to school for the very first time. She's been homeschooled forever. She goes to school and she meets this boy, and whoa, the boy is from her past. It's exactly Hopeless by Colleen Hoover. The boy is the one who like always protected her from her past. They lived in a really bad like foster care home, and he always took care of her in the foster care home, and they both got out when they were like 12, and now it's when they're 16, 17, and it's just literally, it was hopeless. It was the same plot of like, then like the shock of like what happened to her foster home. I mean, it was very sad. It was sad, but it wasn't like as bad, I think, as they were selling this book to be. And I don't know, it was just okay. I gave it 3 stars. I didn't think it was special. I felt like I read the story before, so it wasn't really one I would recommend. Okay, guys, those are all the books I read in September this month. What are some books you read? Please let me know below, and thank you guys so much for watching. Bye, guys!